welcome to another painting video. Today, I've got something really fun. I'll be painting Boulder, who my daughter insists is the cutest troll in Moonstone. It's actually her model, so we sat down together to pick out the color scheme. In the end, she decided that bright green pants and mossy hair were a must. Well, I can work with that. Let's begin, shall we? I always like to start with some quick base coats using the airbrush. First up, I'm spraying dark Jade all over the model. This will be our shadow color. Next, I'm doing a zenithal highlight with red gray, spraying it from a high angle to pick out those details. I usually go with the most dominant color on the model for this step. To give the skin a bit of a purple tint, I add another zenithal layer with Slanesh Grey. Alright, let's tackle Boulder's rocky skin. This is the biggest feature on the model, so it's a good idea to get that done first. I shade the entire skin with Targor Raid Shade to really boost those purple shadows. Next, I layer a mix of Uniform Grey and Barbarian Flesh on the raised areas. This is our base for the skin. I then layer a mix of Ash Grey and Ruby Skin to bring some warmth and life to the rocky texture. Adding that hint of skin tone to the grey really makes all the difference. After that, I mix Company Grey and Opal Skin to brighten things up, especially on the raised areas. For the highlights, I use Ruby Skin and Opal Skin, focusing mainly on the face to make it pop and stand out as the brightest part of the model. To add even more character, I thin down Berserker Bloodshade with contrast medium and apply it to areas like the nose and hands where blood would be close to the surface. I also go in with pure Berserker Bloodshade to make the nose and lips really stand out. Now, if I need to tone things down or correct any mistakes, I go back with my Ruby Skin and Opal Skin mix. I don't always show this step in videos, but trust me, there's a lot of touching up that goes on behind the scenes. Finally, I return to my Company Grey and Opal Skin mix for the last highlights. I'm super happy with how Boulder's skin turned out. It feels right for a rock troll, but still has enough life in it to keep things interesting. Okay, bright green pants, let's go. I start by using Gutrippa Flesh as the base coat. It works really well over the lighter base, which we set up earlier. Next, I sketch on Elysian Green, following the folds of the pants for that natural look. I repeat that process with a mix of Elysian Green and Dorn Yellow to brighten things up. Finally, I highlight with Dorn Yellow to create those bold, bright green pantaloons that really pop on Boulder. I think my sketchy style works very nice here. It gives Boulder that almost Jim Henson style Muppet vibe. Anyways, let's move on to that mossy hair. For the hair, I base coat with Castellan Green. Then I layer on Deathguard Green, followed by Krieg Khaki for some extra depth. Now, here's the fun part. I cover the entire hair with Dirty Down Moss. It really gives it that bright mossy green look. Then I take a damp makeup sponge and gently remove some of the moss effect from the highlighted areas to add some natural variation. Of course, what's Boulder without an actual boulder? I start off by giving it a coat of Basilicanum Grey contrast paint, which I also use for all the rocks scattered on his arms and head. Then I layer on uniform grey to start building up those rocky textures. I add ash grey for more definition. And finish off with company grey to really make the highlights pop. To contrast the lighter skin and really frame Boulder's face, I'm going for a darker look on the horns. First, I start with a base of Black Templar contrast paint. Next, I layer on Dark Reaper, which works great for the base of a blue tinted highlight. After that, I build up some depth with Thunderhawk Blue, adding a bit of coolness to the mix. Finally, I highlight with Fenrisian Grey to make those horns stand out and give them a sharp, defined look. For any remaining areas on the model, I use Wraithbone to get them a nice light base coat. This is a great foundation to work from. The rope around his pants and horns get a coat of snakebite leather for that classic worn look. For his eyes, I shade them with Skeleton Horde. And then add tiny pupils with Abaddon Black. His sandals I paint with ochre paint, followed by a shade of Agrax Earthshade to give them some depth. After that, I layer on the ochre paint to bring out the original color. And finish off with highlights using a mix of ochre and ice yellow to really make them stand out. If you're curious about how I did this base, make sure to check out my City Goblins video where I cover that in detail. And here you have it, the cutest troll I have ever painted. My daughter was absolutely thrilled with how he turned out. Moonstone has been a bit of a departure for me, since I usually go for the grimdark and gross. But there's something about these miniatures that makes me want to paint them in a sort of a dreamy storybook style, like they step right out of a fairy tale. I guess it's good to mix things up now and then. In my next video, I'll be painting one of the funniest characters in the game, Boris, the summoner of bunnies. And of course his trusty murder bunnies will be along for the ride. In the meantime, don't forget to check out my Instagram, where I post progress pictures and behind the scenes updates of my current projects. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.